It pulls you in and doesn't let go.
Hello, welcome to the Carousel Podcast. A lot of streams this week. Yesterday with Dick Masterson, the stream got completely screwed up. So let us know, Cameron, if there is issues here. If you start hearing echoes or anything like that, let us know, because that's been a recurring problem. And Restream is horrible because they respond to you in AI. But anyway, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode than we normally do. Normally, it's just blabbering about whatever dumb stuff is in the news cycle. But you are, in fact, a actual real-life guy in the mainstream advertising world as a copywriter, which is the coolest thing you can be. That's what I used to be also. So I wanted to just get all the people that are constantly asking me how to get into these industries and how to work in this world. I wanted to just talk to somebody that's still in the world, because I am banished from the world completely. So I don't know exactly what it's like these days. So I just wanted to hear, and again, please don't do anything that would get you in trouble in any way, but I just want to hear your path to being a professional copywriter. And is it as awesome as it used to be? To just tell us everything about it. So how did you get started in the advertising world as a creative?
Sure. Well, firstly, I want to say, Isaac, I'm a huge fan. I really like your career trajectory. There's nothing really cooler than being banned from this godforsaken industry that we call advertising. So good for you. It's true, I still work in the mainstream ad world. I will say I do think I offer a unique perspective, because this wasn't my career path. I did not study advertising. I didn't go to portfolio school. I didn't do all of that gay crap that people do to get into advertising. I just did it by sheer will, and that's how I got in, because I couldn't think of anything left to do. So yeah, I guess I'll just start from really kind of the beginning. I mean, college-wise, I didn't study anything to do with advertising. What I studied wasn't important, but I basically got in because I started on a freelance basis on this platform called Upwork. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's where freelancers can go and just kind of like put themselves out there in the hopes of getting jobs. And I started getting like penny a word blog writing stuff coming in, really bottom of the barrel, scraping the bottom of that barrel kind of copy jobs, right? So I will say, though, I mean, it got me going, got some money in the bank account, whatever Upwork didn't take. And so it got me writing on a professional level in that way. I was interested in writing. I've always liked writing. I've always thought I wanted to be a writer, just didn't know how to make money doing that on a consistent basis, which I think a lot of people who have that mind to be a writer, I think that's something that they struggle with at some point. So started on Upwork, got a portfolio together, and then I got into the business, the B2B space, the business to business space. I got locked in with actually a uniform company when I was living in New York City. This guy he basically just hired me on my Upwork work, right? So I got in with this guy. It was really awesome. He really showed me the ropes. He was my mentor. No longer with us, but yeah, that's really how I got started professionally on a non-freelance basis, and then just kept going from there. So started in the B2B world, landed at a top creative agency,
which is very cool. But this is also part of the reason why I love our industry. Is it's one of the very few industries left in the world where a lot of people come in this way via necessity. Like you come in, you're doing creativity for money, like primarily, right?
Mhm.
And that's cool. Like there's not a lot of jobs like that. You know, there's not a lot of like things left in the world where you're like almost like an artisan, you know?
Yeah.
And you start as like an artisan and then you make your way into like being like a creative director, which is actually really cool. And it seems like that's what you decided to do. So Upwork, so if people don't know, that's like the real bottom of the barrel,
Yes.
total piece of shit, H-1B filled world where you're just hiring people for $50 to like write something. And you have to imagine that Upwork will probably be totally vanquished by AI, right? Because it's like
Certainly.
it's AI grade writing, and now that AI can do it, you really don't need Upwork anymore. But so you started doing that, but how, of all things, why writing? I mean, because you could have done design, you could have done illustration. You're saying you didn't care about writing. You're not like a writer's writer, but like you still had to do something.
No, I mean, I was, like I mentioned, I was interested in writing. Like through college, I always wrote things creatively. Me and my friends were, listen, every college has this friend group. I was part of this kind of like irony, poisoned hipster kind of
Got
thing,
it.
where we
Yes.
were really, it was very important to us to be funny on Twitter. It was very important for us to be funny in the group chat. It was very, very crucial that we get out these one-liners. So I dabbled. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be a comedy writer. Maybe I'll do stand-up.
Oh, okay. Okay. I get it. Okay.
Which
Yeah, nice.
actually, it's important though that I make this distinction right now, that I thought about comedy before getting into copywriting, because there is this faction of copywriters that currently work in mainstream advertising that are 100% certain, because they wrote a State Farm commercial once, that they are comedians and that they are not, and they are in improv comedy troops, probably in Chicago. I work with all of them, so that's a huge faction of the ad agency currently in the creative world. But I thought about that before I got into copywriting. So yeah, I was kind of just dabbling in writing creatively, comedically, all of that stuff. And then I just dropped it. I just kind of dropped it eventually and did other crap. I worked in the restaurant industry. I did other things. I was in New York in my 20s and just having fun. And then I thought, okay, I really got to get serious now. You're good at writing. What are you going to do? And then that's when the Upwork kicked in.
So you just went on Upwork, and what was your first thing you got? What do you have to do to get on Upwork? Like, what do you actually do?
So I found out about Upwork just whatever, perusing the internet or whatever, and then I got onto Upwork. I tried to finagle this bio for myself because I didn't have any experience, right? So I used the life experience I do have, which was in different areas, and I just try to focus on that, try to give myself a unique selling perspective, something unique about myself. And the first job I got on Upwork was for a company that is still around today. They're called Fool's Gold Barbecue. It's a plant-based barbecue company. And so I was writing all of their blogs, all of like why it's better to eat tofu barbecued and all of that. So that ended up being actually a pretty high-paying client to be my first one, and got me it got my portfolio at least a little bit populated, so to speak. But yeah,
do you remember what they were paying you? If you don't mind asking.
It was, so I did a bunch of different deliverables for them. So they would give me like $150 per blog post. And I was writing a couple of those per week. And then I did some social media stuff for them. And I think it was like $50 per post. And then I would write email stuff for them. And then they would base my rate. They'd give me a base rate. And then if I hit a certain click-through rate or open rate, then they would give me more money.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was just a restaurant.
No, it's just
it was a brand.
Yeah, a brand. They do plant-based barbecue sauces, plant-based barbecue tools, this kind of thing. Yeah.
Is it plant-based barbecue sauce? Isn't all barbecue sauce plant-based? Isn't
Oh no, you didn't know it's made with yeah, of course it is. Like it so yeah, it just worked better on tofu, I suppose.
Oh, I see. It was barbecue sauce for plant-based barbecue.
Yeah, and it was all this. And it
That's a
was like
niche.
from a weight loss perspective because the guy who did it.
From weight loss perspective.
Yeah, so there's
Yes.
layered messaging. So I'm like, dude, we're gonna need to get a hierarchy going of messaging. So are we losing
Yeah.
weight? Are we vegan? What are we? But yeah, so that was my first, and it was good because not only did it get some money coming in weekly, but it kind of taught me how to manage clients. That's a huge thing too. Once you start getting into senior levels of creative advertising, like right now I'm at the senior copywriter level. You start to develop more relationships with clients directly, and so that was cool for me to get started that way. But yeah, so that was my first client.
So, okay, so you had this one client, you're kind of scraping by. I had that phase also. I had my early phases of like little clients I had here and there. And yeah, and it's weird because like for me, it was like, wow, I never thought I would ever get paid to just like write dumb shit, I never had the comedy bent. Luckily, I never like thought I was a comedian, but, yeah, a lot of people, that's true. I mean, the whole world, but again, what's so cool about our industry is like you can do this. Like you can literally do it from seed. You don't need some like guy to be your mentor. Like you can fucking do it yourself. Like you can so fucking do it yourself. And that's what I also did.
And
that's how it should be, man.
Yeah.
That's how this shit should be. Like this is exactly how like a man's career should be. You should have to fucking figure it out yourself. And okay, so you have this phase, you have your Fiverr phase, not Fiverr, it's Upwork. Same shit though.
Same thing.
Yeah, and so how long does that last?
Okay, so I'm with this client then for about maybe 6 months. We had a falling out because he was an idiot and I couldn't handle that.
What have you got to tell the juicy story there?
I don't remember what was so juicy. I wish I could point to some kind of juicy story. I just remember this was like 8 years ago. So, yeah, we just had a falling out. I remember an exchange of words in which I told this guy to basically just go to hell. I'm not working for him anymore. And that surliness has lasted even up till this day, where I find myself arguing with creative directors, but whatever. That's another cool thing too. There's still room in this industry, even though that's quickly being stifled and HR'd out. There is room to be like, I don't know, like I hate to use Mad Men, but there is some room still to have that kind of discourse with your fellow creatives or whatever. Some surly discourse.
Yeah, not really though. Not in my experience. Not in LA. You could. Oh, it depends on the industry and it depends on where you're at. But like,
yeah, that's true. True.
It depends on who you're talking about. Like, yes, if you have a good relationship with your people, like, yeah, you can totally disagree. Like, I've worked at great agencies where that was the case, but I would say in the mainstream agencies in LA, it's probably different than Dallas. You can't really do that anymore. There's no you have to constantly be, I'm nice. You have to just constantly be saying that. I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. So I'm actually glad to hear that I actually have no idea. I haven't been in these worlds in so long. But I do know, I remember one of the last gigs I had was freelancing for one of the big ones, right? One of the big, so the way that, just so everybody knows, the way that the ad world works now is there's 5 huge holding companies, and they own every little agency that makes any money at all.
Yes.
So I was freelancing for one of those, and yeah, it was like we started having, me and the creative director started having arguments, and it was like not okay. It was not okay to argue. Like, it was like she was not down.
She.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's what it is. Like, it was like it was not okay to tell her she was wrong. Like, not in like a serious way. Like, you could kind of like do it as like you could really play the role of like little puppy, if you wanted, but like I'm fucking incapable. It's not that I have a choice and I don't do it. It's I literally can't.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to do it.
Mhm. And that's a distinction too. I mean, I say that you can have discourse with you, but I'm talking about a small group of
Yeah.
men who have all established on the side. We're not like all these other people. So it's not, that's within the mainstream advertising culture.
Well, and also the higher up you go, I will say, the better it gets. I noticed that too. Like the more like all these places that I was free, the worse the reputation of the agency creatively, the worse people were. Like the higher up you got, like the closer you got to like Wyden Kennedy or the really great branding agencies I worked for, there was more of a feeling of like, okay, we can argue about this, like because we actually care.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point. But yeah, is going back to the juicy story thing. Like, so this guy, or the plant-based barbecue. So this guy, he lost a bunch of weight, and he did it on a plant-based diet. And I think our parting words, one thing I told him, I was like, even though you lost weight, you still don't look good. So it was one of those kind of falling. I was like, you look like a melted candle. So maybe try some meat. I'm happy to write that blog post for you for $200. So jumping back, and so then kind of progressing rather, that progressed, and then I got in with the uniform company. So I started doing B2B writing on a non-freelance basis, on a full-time basis, and that was really cool, but really boring. For everyone out there that wants to get into this, business to business or B2B writing is you as a writer, as a business, talking to another business, and it's very, very boring. I mean, there's a push now to make it less boring. I know it's being represented at like Cannes and other awards more predominantly now, but it's boring. You can make money, but it's really boring. Going from that though, I decided, I'm like, hey, the stars are in my eyes now. I'm like, okay, I'm really understanding I started understanding more what an agency is really, and like what the business model is and how I could possibly fit into this. And then I thought about the agencies I wanted to work at and what I needed to do. And I realized that my portfolio effing sucked. That's the biggest thing for everyone listening that whoever wants to become a copywriter, your portfolio has to be good, period. Yep. It can't be kind of good. It has to be good. And if you want a benchmark as to what a good portfolio looks like, go to moderncopywriters.com and look at all those people's portfolios. That's exactly what I did. Once I realized I'm at this uniform company, I want to be more creative. I want to be at bigger agencies, et cetera, et cetera. I got on moderncopywriters.com and copied what all my contemporaries were doing.
Tell people, what is a portfolio?
So a portfolio is, if you're a copywriter, a portfolio is a website, and I say that very specifically. It is a website that demonstrates your work. And you're thinking to yourself, well, my work is just words. How do I bring that to life, or how do I make that interesting? Well, that's another piece of this puzzle. You have to connect with an art director or someone who knows you have to connect with an art director that works in advertising, because otherwise your words and your ideas, which being a copywriter is about coming up with ideas first, your ideas are never going to come to life. There's never going to be a visual component to them, and therefore they will be lost immediately in the room. No one will care. It's great if you want to show your long form writing on your portfolio without any kind of visual accompaniment, but to get your big ideas created and displayed and presented on your portfolio, whether they be for an actual client or not, you have to connect with an art director, and you guys have to work together. Or you can just learn it all yourself, I suppose. But that's, you're talking about like a year of probably like good Photoshop training. So yeah, I teamed up with an art director that I met, and I started coming up with ideas and just came up with spec work, developed my portfolio, and started shopping it around from this B2B agency. Also was taking kind of freelance clients on the side of that. And then, ended up at an agency, not this one, a different one, and just been kind of jumping around ever since.
So this was something that I went to portfolio school to deal with this issue. But it's actually way more badass to just do it yourself, which you did.
Yeah.
But what this thing happens where you get to this point, and as a guy who's kind of doing this for money, and then everywhere you go, you see these sexy agencies, and you're supposed to want to go work for these sexy agencies, and the sexy agencies all say the same thing, which is, we're not even going to talk to you if you don't have a portfolio, which I totally understand now. Because I get hit up constantly by people who want to come work for me, and 90% of them don't have a fucking portfolio. So the first thing I say is, don't even fucking talk to me. If you don't have a fucking portfolio, you're so unserious about this that I don't even want to fucking talk to you. But when you're in the other shoes, which I was, you're like, but how do I get a fucking portfolio? Because you're just a writer, right? So you're just like, how the fuck do I make what you just said, which are called spec ads? Spec ads are fake ads. They're like pretend ads where you're pretending to make an ad, or you are, for Nike or McDonald's or whatever, but you're doing some fake idea. Like, you're not actually being paid by them, of course, but you're saying, what if I made an ad for McDonald's? This is what I would do.
Yeah.
And in portfolio school, I was blown. Actually, portfolio school was fucking awesome. Like, we had really good teachers, and they all taught me like the creative process of like insights and concepts and everything like that. So I had like kind of a hand. I had like a leg up, because I sort of learned that process, and then I was placed with art directors. So I didn't have to like find one on my own. So how did you find one on your own? And then how did you learn the creative process? Did you just like make it up, or?
No, I wouldn't say I made it up, but so I did a lot. Okay. I just did a lot of observation, really. I mean, I hate to simplify it. I can get into a little more detail, but I really just started observing what the people were doing at the agencies that worked at the agencies that I wanted to work at. I would straight up go on LinkedIn, search whatever agency I wanted to work at the time, look at the people who worked there, specifically the copywriters, looked at their portfolios and copied what they did, and to a certain extent. Now, you're totally right with the spec ad stuff. One thing I will say, again, this is how to become a copywriter, so I'm going to give you just a little tip here. If you're going to make spec ads, all you want to be copywriters out there, don't do McDonald's, don't do condoms, don't do huge, massive brands, because ultimately your ad is going to fall short of the ads that they're already making, and it's just going to look bad. So what I did, realizing that, what I did was I would make, do you know this? There's this brand called New Salt, which is a salt-free salt. so I made a spec ad for them. I made a spec ad for, I don't even remember, like an oil company being in Dallas, like a random oil company. So that's one thing about the spec work I wanted to say. But as far as how I found, and this is going to be so stupid, but I found my art director partner at that stage by like just going out to a bar and talking to her. That's really how I found her. But I mean, I would have had to approach it a different way if I hadn't have found her. And she works at the Richards Group here in Dallas. She did all of the Chick-fil-A, those Chick-fil-A out of home ads, like want more chicken.
With the cow. Yeah.
Yeah. She did a lot of that stuff.
Wow.
And also my friend I went to college with, she was at Fallon agency and worked on Arby's. We Have the Meats, and she kind of helped me a little bit too. But yeah, I met this broad just out at a bar, whatever, and we talked. We're both doing it. We're both in advertising, and I just asked her if she'd help, and she wanted to work on her portfolio too, and that's how it was kind of kismet in that way. But for someone who doesn't have that opportunity or really wants to be more tactical about their career and getting into copywriting, I would say LinkedIn is your friend. Unfortunately, that's the truth. A lot of copywriter, if you're a wannabe copywriter seeking an art director, they're going to be very flattered by the fact that you reach out to them. I would say stay local so you can meet in person. Those are the tips I would give without going through that process myself. But it is crucial that you get an art director friend to help you out with your portfolio.
So how did you learn though the actual craft of it? Because that for me, I remember the day or the class. So I went to this thing called Bookshop, which is in LA, and I went there because everybody told me. I lucked into a job at a really top agency because I just sort of fell backwards into having a portfolio because I was a writer for Vice. So I was a writer for Vice and LA Weekly. My early jobs were editorial, like $20 articles for these bullshit websites. And I had done a work in advertising. I fell into a job at 72 and Sunny because I was a lawyer and I had no money or jobs or anything. And so I fell into like a business affairs job there, which is just like paperwork boy. But anyway, so I sort of started getting a sense of what was going on. I made a portfolio of my like editorial writing, of my like articles, right? And my like photography from being like a culture writer. And it looked really cool. And then, like you, I had these little shitty jobs that I found on Craigslist that were just like blogs and shit. You know what I mean? And so that was my whole website. I didn't know what concepting meant. I had no idea what like that was at all, right? So I didn't really have any spec work. And then I fell into this job at this top agency as a senior copywriter making six figures out of nowhere. So I like skipped the whole line.
Wow.
And I got fired from that job in 3 months. Both because I voted for Trump and was very loud about it, and because I had no fucking idea what I was doing. So both things. But they knew I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, they knew what they were getting into when they hired me. But anyway.
That's amazing, though, to skip all
I know,
of
I skipped all the way ahead. I know, I was so lucky. It was so ridiculous. And it ended in absolute disaster.
Why
like, worst thing that's ever happened to me. What?
Do you remember specifically what you did or didn't do?
Oh, it was definitely Trump. It was
really?
definitely
Okay.
Trump. No, for sure. I mean, I got the job in summer 2016.
Oh, okay.
So I was fucked. Because back then you thought you could talk about that stuff. In Dallas, you probably can. In LA, you cannot.
I was in New York City at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I personally had the best time of my life during those years in New York City. But in that corporate context, I get it.
Were you at agencies?
I don't talk about it now. What's that?
Were you at agencies then?
No, I was at the uniform company doing B2B writing at that time.
Yeah, so this was like prestige agency, right? So this was like absolutely not okay. And I had no idea. I didn't even know. I was so in over my head. I had no idea what was going on. And everybody there was super left. And I was out there screaming about Trump every day without any idea of what I was getting into. And my immediate like associate ACD pulled me aside one time when we were drunk, and he was just like, "Just so you know, there's no room for a Trump supporter at this agency." And I was gone in 2 weeks after that. I was literally fucking out. So that's definitely what it was. I mean, that being said, again, I didn't know what I was doing. Everybody there knew concepting and blah, blah, blah. And the thing everybody there kept saying to me at the time was, you need to go to Bookshop. You need to go to Bookshop. Because everybody there went to Bookshop. And you need to go compete in the one show. So the one show is this like, you can compete in the student competition. And for Bookshop, you compete in the student competition. And I didn't win the one show. I won one of the one show awards later, which was such a great like fuck you to all those people, because I was so much better than them, but they didn't know how to deal with me because they were like low IQ. So anyway, I went to Bookshop, and Bookshop is this like shitty night school. It's like very cheap. It's like the whole thing costs like $3,000, and that's for like 2 years.
Is that a portfolio school?
Yeah, it's a portfolio school. So the whole point is just get like spec work in your portfolio and then do the one show. The whole point is to like compete in the one show.
Right.
So, but it's totally what you make of it. It's like so janky. It's like it met at like big agencies, like just in the nighttime, like in their office, and there'd be like one guy that taught these courses. But I remember we had this great teacher whose name was Rafa. Later, he became a super communist and started like talking shit about me on LinkedIn, which was really weird. So I should hate him, but he was such a fucking good teacher. His name was Rama or something. And
Sounds about
I'm
right.
sure, yeah. But he was fucking great at teaching. And I remember the day he taught me the creative process. And it taught me like, Target, Insight, that whole, the whole shit of insights.
Yeah,
And I was blown away. Like when he taught it to me, and I was like, holy shit, that's like the best thing I've ever learned, like in my whole life.
that does
So
unlock something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you learn that? Just coming from the total outside, like how did you learn it yourself?
So I think when I started professionally writing, in a non-freelance capacity, what my mentor told me was your job is to solve business problems with using creative solutions. And that really stuck with me. That I still think about that. And it's so simple, but it's so true. And if we all just got back to that, then I think there would be a lot better advertising out there currently. Um, so thinking about that, okay, my job is to solve business problems with creative solutions. Okay, great. Um, that was basically the foundation. So when we start getting into like strategic insight and all of that came later through like reading and also just doing on the job type of stuff. Because I will say, once I got to my first big agency, I wasn't fully as a mid-level. I wasn't a junior copywriter. I was a mid-level copywriter. I still was kind of learning these things, like seeing briefs, like really intricate briefs, especially when you're at big agencies, like everyone's got to justify their job. So we're getting so much strategy, so much insight, so much research. And I just kind of, again, just observing, like silently observing, okay, not only are we solving business problems, but this insight that everyone keeps talking about is like the very specific kind of business problem that we're trying to solve and the unique way in which we're trying to solve it. So I hate to give a shitty answer, but really it was just kind of on the job training.
Yeah,
And
you
also
just learned it.
there's so many good books about copywriting out there. I can, like Whipple is the famous one.
Hey, Whipple, squeeze this.
Yeah, exactly. But there's also like less gay ones too.
Yeah. So how are you not worried about getting in trouble for saying gay? I can't believe you work at a big age. Like, you're not worried about this?
Well, first of all, I'm at the office now. It's Friday. Nobody's here.
Yeah.
I'm the only person at the office.
Okay.
Secondly, what are you going to do?
What are you gonna fucking do?
Yeah, it's like, I just kind of do me. I will say with this whole the culture war that exists in corporate America, and it's certainly at ad agencies too, like what you were describing, your experience, it's the same way still. It's just we've all learned how to just shut up about it. Like I think what we've all learned is that none of us are friends. Like I'm not friends with anyone I work with, outside.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just not. And so I think that really eliminates a lot of that kind of culture war stuff.
Really?
And we just inside the workplace, we really don't speak about anything that personal. Certainly not politics, so that eliminates a lot of, and it also kind of takes away, it equalizes all of us in a way, in a very commie type way. If we're not just talking about politics or anything like that, then we're all good, I guess.
So but when I was in it, it was impossible. I mean, it was also in, my years were the worst possible years because it was like 2016 through 2020. So it was like the most charged, years.
Those are the worst.
So does that come up? Like, do you have to sit there when Taylor Swift's album comes out and Slack messages about Taylor Swift's thing, and you have to go, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to do that whole shit?
I do not do that. I refuse to do that, but I do witness those things happening. Of course, it's like, I don't know, what was it last summer? The Brat thing. Yeah, the Kamala, and that singer, whatever the hell she is, Charlie XCX did the Brat thing. That was a huge topic of conversation at the ad agency for a while. Should we do a Brat? But so I sat there and just said no to, like, I don't think that's a good idea. Not only do I'm vocal about the fact that I think these are bad ideas. I don't contribute to them. Like, if let's do a Brat campaign for our fried chicken company social media. I'm not going to I just don't have anything to do with it. I just,
you're just like, nah, this is not my idea.
Yeah. I'll give you another concept. I'll present an equally culturally relevant concept to you that's beautifully built out and looks great and sounds great. but I'm not going to participate in the Swiftie discourse and any of that kind of stuff. And also, I don't like anything that goes too libtarded. Even in conversation, or people like drop hints. People will do this thing. They're like, well, I saw a Tesla on my way into work and I just had to, take a second because that kind of, so people will
they
make
do a lot of that. Yeah.
It's it's like corporate passive aggression.
Yes.
And I won't engage. Not only do I not engage with that too, I will straight up tell people like, you sound crazy. Like
really?
Yeah, without giving my own political opinion or even really alluding to it. I make people know somehow.
Just don't talk to you about this. You're not available for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, that's good that you have like a firm boundary. That's probably good advice for people. Just like set a firm boundary. Like, don't come to me with this bullshit, but don't go over to where you're starting to argue, because that's when you get in trouble. If you're like actually starting the argument, that's where I went wrong.
See, there's
trying to like win the argument, which is like not going to fucking happen.
You'll never win, especially if you're arguing with female creative directors.
Yeah.
But I'm looking over my shoulder for one. But there is really that nuance to it. It's like you almost kind of seem cool and eccentric that you don't, participate in the discourse of the day or water cooler talk, which, by the way, there's none of that anymore, which we could get into that part too, how like in the post-COVID landscape of mainstream advertising, it's desolate, it's horrible.
Well, no, so I never really experienced this. So what's it like post COVID?
It's vacant, it's gray, it's boring, it's quiet, it's basic, it lacks creativity, and clients are so trepidatious to spend money. They're so reluctant to put an agency on retainer, as opposed to just doing like, so now what they do is like project by project.
Yeah, project by project, yeah.
Which makes your job as a copywriter at an ad agency tenuous and really tentative, because your salary is being paid by whichever client you're scoped to work on. And if they've only signed up to do one project, then you're only signed up at this employment for that project, So now granted, that's why I work at Big. That's why I work in Omnicom, because you have such a massive infrastructure behind you that my job isn't reliant upon one, like my Frito-Lay client dropping one project or whatever, So, but in the post-COVID world, so how it works is that I only have to appear at the office 3 days per week. And that means that my computer needs to connect to the Wi-Fi 3 times per week. And that's all it is for any amount of time, for 30 seconds. So what you have is this phenomenon of an office that's supposed to be like exploding with creativity. And what you have is a gray, lifeless thing where people will come in for 30 minutes to take a meeting, a virtual meeting with their team that's in New York or whatever, and then they'll just go home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is. I mean, people don't stay here from 9 to 5. There's no vibe. There's no spark. That
sucks.
I mean, I grabbed a Pepsi Zero earlier. I found a Pepsi Zero. I'm like, oh, that's amazing that I have this Pepsi Zero while I'm at the office. It's things like that. They give you like of stuff, but there's no office energy. There's no vibe. And I'm sure even in that 2015 Trump world, there was at least where you were at still some like hustle and bustle and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, no, man. So my first, I witnessed the true changeover. So again, like I went to law school, graduated, passed the bar, could not get a job in law at all in LA, even though despite I'd been promised I could from Tulane, and I did very well too. So there were no jobs. I was forced into it. And I started writing, and I was writing for Vice. I started getting published in like little shitty magazines just as like a culture writer. And I got a job making 1/4 of what I was supposed to be making out of law school. Cause I'm in, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Right. I'm supposed to be making 160 right out. I get a job at 72 and Sunny making $44,000 a year, being a business affairs associate who like walked around with a stamp and like stamped licensing contracts. But this was 72 and Sunny, so we were the top. At that time, we were the best of the best. Like, we were the number one ad agency in the world, 72 and Sunny. So we had Google, we had Carl's Jr., we had Call of Duty. We had the heyday of Call of Duty ads, the heyday of Carl's Jr. hot girl sandwich ads. And I was on Google. We were like launching Google Chrome and Google, like, remember the Google Books? The fucking Google laptops. So this was the best agency in the world. And just so people know, it was in 2013, it was everything you could imagine. It was so fun. It was the hottest girls you've ever seen. Just like 60% dimes. And they were all like the account girls, and the fucking every girl was a fucking 10. And they'd all gone to Indiana University, you know, and they come out and they get these jobs, and they were all banging the upper people. Like, just, it was like everything that you dream of in Mad Men, but like the modern version. This was like the IPA era. This was like before, you know, remember like before people drank fancy coffee?
Yes.
This was before people drank like really fancy coffee. Since I was so bored all the time, I brought in like the first fancy coffee because I had nothing to do. So
it's such a sweet spot in culture in general too.
It was amazing. 2012, it was the end. That was the end of the road. Yeah. And we had these parties. I mean, I was miserable all the time because I was like yearning to be this creative, but I was off in the like dork ass legal department. So I was like constantly losing my mind and like very depressed because it was this amazing environment, but I was at the very bottom of the food chain, like in the least cool fucking way imaginable, you know? Yeah. And so I was miserable every single day, but it was so fun because it was just fucking ridiculous. Like, it was like the parties were insane. But dude, all those people worked like 14-hour days. They would get there at 8 and leave at 8, like every day. It was a sweatshop. And such high quality people. Like, everybody there was just like really good and really cool and really hot. And it's so fun. And I got fired from there by HR. For some stupid bullshit. I could go into the story, but it wasn't anything political. It was just me being, you know, I was very much HR, like me having a run-in with HR where I didn't back down, basically.
I get it, yeah.
And I saw it from the span when I was there, and we were flipping golf carts and, you know, sex and drugs and crazy, blah, blah, blah. By 3 years later, it was what you're talking about. Even before COVID. 3 years later, it was just female woke zone. You know, it was like every ad they make is they had the NFL. They made the NFL as gay. Remember the NFL is gay?
Yes.
The NFL is gay.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a certain crop of women there, I remember, who were like the activist women who were constantly talking about how they were being discriminated against because they weren't the creative directors. They took over completely. And the guy got in trouble, Glenn Cole, one of the guys got in trouble during BLM or something, and they got fucking just hollowed out. And now it's just, you know, working there is just exactly the same as what it's probably just like HR, drab.
And the work
you know.
it's reflected in the work.
Oh yeah, and the work is trash. Total fucking trash.
Not just there. Look at what like Wyden and Kennedy. Yeah. I mean,
Wyden still kind of can make good shit, you know, like every now and then they do. Yeah.
But if you compare it, if you just do like a quick look back at their work just from 15 years ago and then compare it to today, that Nike thing, their answer to just do it, which they came up with, is just like, what was it? It came out recently.
Yeah, it was win. Be part of the winning team. What was it? Oh, just win. It was you can't win, so just win, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Which is, you get the concept of that. Like, I get it. It's like, you can't win, so win. And it's like, that's 1/10 as good. It's like that's like a funny pun somebody comes up with in one meeting that's like, okay, that you mess around with is like a third option and then you kill. right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're going with now, you know,
And
because
then
they just have no one.
they had so just do it, and then the answer to that recently was why do it, and so that is actually
Oh,
so.
I thought you were talking about this other thing. They had why do it? Did they
No,
really
but
have
what
that?
you're talking about too is shockingly bad in my opinion. But the
Yeah,
why
I
do
agree.
it thing, which they just came out with, was it's so to me indicative and so symbolic of everything that every ad agency is doing. Where we're just it feels very insular, very introspective. So that word why becomes really, even though it's like consumer facing language, it's really, like I said, indicative of everything that's happening in ad agencies right now, because that's what everyone is saying. Like, why are it's just we're it's almost like we're in kind of like Woody Allen. It's very like we're all hunched over and we're just wondering why we're doing everything, and the creative it can't ruffle feathers, but it needs to be
Yeah,
funny, and
right.
that's another big thing too. Creative is not allowed to move the needle anymore. It cannot move the needle unless it's towards like white people are bad.
What do you
Uh,
mean move the needle?
Move the needle culturally. So even if you want to go back to the just do it, I mean, Nike just do it is beautiful in its simplicity. You want to go back to like the old Apple ads,
Yeah,
the early 2000s kind of tech ads,
yeah.
which were amazing. And you looked at them and they to me appear like art, commercial art. And that's what attracted me always to advertising. I was always kind of I was always really pumped on advertising, really liked it. I always had like old ads hung up on my walls and stuff like that. But comparing all of that to today, nothing is really allowed to move the needle, and culturally speaking, in that way, where people are like, "Did you see that commercial?" No one talks like that about Super Bowl ads anymore. No one really cares. Mountain Dew turned Seal, the singer, into a seal.
Oh
See,
my God.
it's all just so obvious
It's
and
so
so.
obvious. And it's like cheating. Like they want to, it's all cutesy. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's get a celebrity to talk about his name pun. And they
Yeah.
think like that's what all the Super Bowl ads are. It's just like a pun and like
Yes.
three celebrities. And they're like, that'll save us. And there's no art to it. There's no art to it at
Exactly.
all.
And
And yeah, they
that
kill the art.
and circling back to what I said before about a faction of the creatives being wannabe improv comics or SNL comics, is that they're all obsessed with and measure their entire creative ability by coming up with puns. And I don't know how many times I've had to tell people, I'm like, I don't come up with puns. Okay, I just don't. I'm not someone who I did that. I just don't want to do it anymore. To me, it feels really cheap and really hackneyed at this point. I don't want to come up with puns. But that's what like you said, that's what
We
it
had
all is.
there was coming up, there was a no pun rule. You were supposed to not ever do puns. That's what I learned. I learned that puns are the last resort. You never do puns.
I
Puns are
wish
like
that
the
was
cheapest fucking thing you can do.
yeah.
So and now it's like all, oh, we got one pun and it's some celebrity's name and we're gonna get the celebrity and then the celebrity's gonna do it, which is like, okay, look, I appreciate the postmodernness of that to
Yeah.
some degree, where it's like a reference to a reference to a reference. Like look, that's kind of like the culture of our age. It's sort of deep fried, but these are not. There's no art to it, man. There's no. It's just the cheapest, littlest thing, you
It's a
know?
circle jerk. You can
Yeah,
imagine what it is at the agency, or at least I can. I can think of that.
yeah.
I can think of the room where Seal being a seal, drinking Mountain Dew in a rock.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
that's
Oh yo,
amazing.
that's amazing! Oh my god! Yeah,
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 and everyone's just like high fiving
yeah.
each other, and I guarantee
Right.
a woman came up with that, or someone
Yeah.
who, or a flimsy male who wants to be an improv comic. I mean that, or he owns Funko Pops. That's another sub faction of
The
creatives.
Funko Pop
The
creative.
Funko Pop Marvel dork.
Oh,
Um,
dude, we need that because it was hype dads. You know, remember this whole hype dads thing?
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So, yeah, we should just do a whole genealogy of the different types that end up in advertising. But yeah, Funko Pop dork is. But are they usually copywriters or they're usually designers? The Funko
They're
Pop dork.
art.
They're
Art.
usually art. Yeah, that's what I would think. Funko Pop dork would be more art director.
Labubu Truther, Funko Pop dork. They're typically art directors. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
let me think of some copywriter stereotypes now that
Well, you have failed comedian is obviously number one, right?
failed comedian, improv comic. That's the
Yeah.
first one. I don't know. See, I hate to be someone who like defies all but really it's kind of that way. I mean, I don't, and people have mentioned this to me too, like fellow copywriters or creatives or whatever. They're like, you don't really fit in. They allude to that often, and it's true because the type of copywriter I am is like, okay, got to the office at 8:30. It's now 10:30. I'm downstairs chiefing 3 American spirits before it's that kind of that erratic black coffee and cigarette copywriter
Yes.
energy, which I really like. That's my
Yeah.
thing. But no one's like that anymore. No one cares. No one.
There were people like that. There were still some of those around. I remember black coffee and yes, and chain smoking black coffee
Yeah,
copywriter. We still had a few of those around. The thing is, they're usually insatiable lefties, right?
that's
Because
true.
they can't get laid. So they're like they're guys who have a lot of girlfriends.
Yes.
I that type is that, and they're like, oh, so they just let the girlfriend sort of tell them what to do because
Yeah.
they're like can't get laid guys,
And
but they bang their girlfriends. I guess I don't know. It's their
yeah, but
strategy.
in a way that requires consistent consent. Something like
Right. Yes.
it's never like
Repeated. They need to say, "Can I put my hand here?
yeah,
Can I put my hand here?" And that's also what they're doing, like metaphorically. Also,
exactly.
they're coming to work and like they're saying, "Can I put my hand here?" Like metaphorically that day, and then they get closer and closer, and then the girl is just so like bored one night, and she's like, "All right,
And that's
I'll
the
let this guy hit it. Fine."
yeah, and metaphorically speaking, that's what it is. So it's like
Well,
I said,
we all have different strategies, but
yeah, and so that asking why constantly I'm talking about, that's the attitude of that guy, and
yes,
whereas I'm the type of creative, I throw my hog on the table and
yes,
then let's just kind of get to work. Also, I come from like a working class background, so
right.
there's not a lot of like there's not a lot of, and I know you said like working long hours and stuff, and that is a stereotype of advertising. That's true. Not anymore, I would say, or a little less. But there's a difference between work, like active work, like actually having work ethic, and then just being present during meetings. So I think there's a bit of a distinction there. Like I have this kind of white trash work ethic that blows other people away, where they might have more talent than me, but I will work harder than them. So
Hmm.
I'm like hog on the table. Let's get to work. I'm not asking a lot of. I'm not insular about things. Like I just, what is it? What, and not to quote Don Draper, but like, what's the strategy? Let's get to work type of thing. That's where I'm at. And the way I come off to people is abrasive. People think I'm abrasive, and people think I'm uh, uh, blunt and all of that. This is the feedback I'm getting. Whereas 10 years ago, I probably would have just been like a normal guy, a normal copywriter dude in advertising.
So, what is your process when you get an idea? What do you do, or not when you get an idea? When you get a brief. So, first of
Mhm.
all, what's a brief? And
Yeah.
second of all,
So,
then what do you do?
yeah. So, you get the brief, and depending on what client you're working on, or sometimes you'll get these kind of cattle calls or jump balls for these big, huge things like a Super
Yeah,
Bowl pitch or something.
yeah. Oh yeah, dude, we got to talk about your fucking Super Bowl pitch, right? Because
And
we're going from the way bottom. We got to work our way to the top. So we got to
yeah,
end this with Super Bowl pitch. But okay, yeah,
cool,
sorry,
cool.
keep going.
Well, even a better one too, that a pitch that I was just on that we won was for I'll say it, I don't care, for Kroger. So we just won the Kroger business, which is huge.
Amazing. That's
Uh,
huge. Yeah, that's
yeah.
massive.
I mean, it's like multiple millions for the agency and a pitch that I was a part of. So, before I get to the process, I want to say one thing to aspiring copywriters. Okay, so let's say you've gotten the portfolio down, you've landed yourself in an agency. Now, let me tell you this: the way to be valuable is to be on new business pitches. Doesn't mean you have to win the business, but be on the new business pitches. That's where you're going to get FaceTime with the chief creative officer. That's where you're going to start to make your name known. And that's really what I did too. That's how I started kind of moving up. Um, is just getting in those new business pitches
because they would just swap you in. They'd see like, hey, can you? Yeah, I remember this too. They
Yeah.
would like say, hey, can you lend a hand on this?
Yes.
And that's a
Here's the
great
brief.
sign. Like if you get if you get invited, I remember like in the agency, I would always perform extremely well in agencies in terms of this type of thing, and extremely poorly in terms of behavioral problems.
Yeah.
And so, but I would get to the point quickly within the year. I would always be in that small meeting of like the two biz dev people who I always had the most respect for in the whole agency. By the way, the biz dev people were always the coolest fucking people because they were just like, they're the ones that have to close the deals. So like,
Yeah.
we've talked some shit about women here, which I don't want to think it's too much, but the coolest women were always the biz dev women because they had to fucking they had no excuses. They had to close the fucking deal. So they couldn't go there and talk about their fucking dog. They were always the ones that were like, shut the fuck up. Where's the ideas? Like, let's go. And so I always really liked them. I loved my favorite shit. Wait, sorry, what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Strategy women too are pretty cool typically.
Right, because they actually have to do something. Right.
I mean, that really their strategy is the crux of what we do as creatives. So they're, and they get paid more than creatives too. So they tend to be like the women tend to be really cool, really savvy, but not in a stupid way, which is nice.
Yeah. So again, it's not, the problem isn't, it's not like that it's every woman is terrible.
No.
There's plenty of great women in advertising. Actually, there's a ton of great women in advertising. It's just the environment. It's when you have an 80% female environment, everything changes. It's like everything becomes this gray panopticon of mediocrity. And it's not because it's just because everybody's so worried about their behavior and everybody's so worried. It's like, and again, it's not women. It's just that a certain type of woman thrives as like HR nanny and that becomes dominant,
Yeah.
Wait, by the way, before we move on, this woman is asking, do you think there's still a possibility to get beginner gigs like that on Upwork? Seems like it's super competitive now. Could you still start on Upwork, asks Natalie?
You can't.
No.
You can't. You really can't. And so I should have probably made that clear back when I was talking about this. But yeah, you really can't get started on Upwork anymore, and I wouldn't advise that anyway. I would really, if you're serious about getting into advertising as a copywriter or an art director, I would skip right to the good stuff. Start on your portfolio. Start looking at other people's portfolio and copy what they're doing. I don't mean to sound, reductive, but that's what you should do if you want to get a job quickly.
Nice. Okay, wait, sorry. So I don't want to get too far off track because I want to hear the rest of this. So you're saying you get on good new business pitches, which is a way to move ahead.
You were talking about process. What's the process?
Oh yeah. What's your process? No, so sorry. So you get a brief.
Yep.
A brief is basically a short, it's called a brief because it's a short assignment for the things that they want, the things that the client wants. And then what do you do? What's your process?
So in that briefs tend to be a little less brief these days. I don't know how it was with you, but they're not so brief anymore in the sense that there's a lot of content here. So I get a brief. It's usually a deck of some kind, like PowerPoint or something. And in it, there's strategy. There's the business problem. There's a bunch of research. There's previous work that was done by us or by whoever we're trying to wrangle the business from. There's all of the pertinent information that you need as a creative to start the process. And what I do is I read the problem. What's really the problem here? Typically, it's they want a sales lift, or they want a visibility lift, or they want, or they're there's a brand positioning shift. Like I work on Frito-Lay, and Tostitos is kind of in the process of doing that now. So that's what I'm working on. It's like they're trying to shift their brand into a different realm for the consumers to kind of perceive them in. And so you get that brief. There's all that going on. So I start thinking about the insight and the strategy. And then for me as a writer, I always think in almost like PR style headline. So really sensational type headline. Like we're talking about Tostitos. Let's just say the brand, they want to reposition themselves as like a craft brand or something. It's like, Tostitos ditches what do you say? Tostitos ditches seed oils for new thinking about things
Yes.
in a from a PR, a large PR perspective.
Yes, right.
Within
And so
that,
just so I want everybody to understand this because this is actually a very important nuance. When he says PR, he means public relations. Public relations means news. So I also was always exactly like this. I thought always in headlines. I always thought that's just because I'm a newsy guy.
yeah,
And that's where the industry has gone now. Since now everything is very, very it's not about the billboard, it's not about the ad, it's about the social media response to everything. What you
earned
really
media.
earned media is everything. So what you really want is thinking in that headline that's going to go viral. That's what you really want to think in. Whereas the old outdated creatives, like the old hype dads, they still think in Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah.
And that's not the right way to think. Like you need to think in, as you just said, switching to seed oil free. That one little thing. It's actually really funny. I just went on OAN and I had this exact conversation about being seed oil free. That one little wrinkle is going to go super viral, whereas your emotional or really funny John Cena Super Bowl ad, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to watch it. Whereas like that one little wrinkle of being seed oil free is going to go like hyper viral.
Yeah. And then you take that wrinkle and what you do is you tell a story. So that's
Right. Yeah.
that's the second step. And that's where you can bring in some emotion, some sentimentality, and some comedy. And so that's typically what I do. So I'll start with a headline within this kind of strategic insight framework. I'll work within that. And then so I'll take these kind of PR headlines, what's working. I'll kind of brainstorm with whoever's around. We'll say, hey, this is cool, that's cool. So then we'll take that kind of overarching headline and then start really building out what the thing is. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm just going to use some Kroger work that because it's fresh in my mind. But I had this idea called Kroger on Over. Okay, and it's all about Kroger. So the whole thing is how do we get Texas? How do we get Kroger to win back some HEB business, or how do we win some business back from HEB? Basically, that's their plan here. So I thought Kroger on Over. That was the headline that I thought of. Okay, Kroger on Over, and then I thought of ways that we could build that out. So it's like, what if it was like in a billboard that the G that kind of swoops, it creates a line that goes towards the Kroger store. I don't know. You start thinking of things like that, like more executional type things. How you can really start to build stuff out, and then you tell a story behind that. And by the way, whether it's a billboard, a radio ad, a TV spot, an online video, that's all determined in the brief. So you know what medium you're working in. So you don't really have to think too much about, is this going to be a billboard or what? Because that typically is within the media plan that the client wants to execute, right? So you start with that PR headline and you start building out how could this look in a billboard? What's a really clever execution on this? And then what I do is I try to tell the story, because that's really what people are buying at the end of the day, is like a story. Even if it is a viral headline, a little wrinkle like seed oils or something, they want the brand, they want to resonate with the brand, and how you do that is as the brand telling a story behind it. So that's really what I do. I have and that you could call the concept. The story you could call the concept. You know what I mean? That's what you're presenting internally to your creatives or the account team or whatever. You're selling the concept, the story. What is it? What exactly are you doing, and why are you doing it? And so that's kind of how I start out.
Okay, so what I really like about what you're saying is you're solving a business problem, right? That's
Always.
your thing. Yeah. And that's what I always say to all the people who work for me, and I say fundamentally what we do is solve business problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a better way to approach it than I think a lot of people approach it. A lot of people who are actually known as really good creatives, especially in the Con Lions sense, are actually people who they just want their ideas to be they think they're really creative people, right? And they want their ideas to be heard, and they haven't been able to. They don't have the balls to go make it as a writer actually, or as a comedian actually, right? They don't have the fucking nuts to do it because they need to be comfortable. So I find that those people are actually the ones generally who are like celebrated in the industry. And their ideas to me are, especially today, they're always so dumb because they have nothing really to do with the brand. It's always just some like funny, clever thing that was so funny and clever. And it was like, yeah, but did you actually really help the brand at all? Or was that just kind of some funny idea, like a little mini movie thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And not to go back, not to keep belaboring this example, but the seal turning into a seal for Mountain Dew
Right.
has
Like,
nothing
what
to
the
do with
fuck
Mountain
does that
Dew.
have to do with Mountain Dew?
But that's what
Yeah.
that's what every big brand does. They put a celebrity in front of their product, and then, or holding the whatever, interacting with their product in some kind of way, and then there's some little clever punny type thing, and it's just stupid. It really has nothing to do with the brand. Like you said.
so
But
true.
my thing is, and the reason why I stand out a little bit from my peers is that I'm not necessarily addicted to this idea of winning an Effie, a lion, or whatever. So I don't curtail every single one of my concepts to be a Cannes Lion concept, which every single effing creative does. You get into a room and it's like, okay, we get it. You want to win this award, but you're talking about, like, you're doing something else here. Like we're talking fried chicken. You're talking blind people accessing healthcare. Okay. And that's what it is too. It's all a social justice cause.
Yes, it's burgers. It's burgers. Remember burgers? Yeah. It's all burgers. And well, now it's all burgers because now they can't even tell the difference between good and bad anyway.
Yeah.
The judges. But even before that, it's still, you're right. It's all like look, I'm saying this as somebody who has not. I wish I'd won one, and then I could say this. But like winning a Cannes Lion, it's like winning an amateur bowling competition. It's just like who the fuck cares about a Cannes Lion? What?
I said you're right, but the thing is, everybody cares.
So who does care about it? Like what?
Well, okay, the reason why people care about it specifically,
tell me why people care about this.
Because, well, okay, the reason why people care is because they are not smart enough they're not smart enough, clever enough, or talented enough to get an idea, to get a real branded idea out there in a way that would actually win based on merit. But the real reason why people care so much, and so then they rely on observable easy tropes to win that lion. But the reason why it makes sense for agencies, CEOs and CCOs to care about it is because it does bring some kind of prestige to your agency, and so that in their mind will attract bigger clients.
Yeah, and you got to differentiate yourself in some way, right?
But now you can't because everyone has one, so it means nothing.
Right. Yeah. So how do agencies differentiate themselves now? I read that book Frenemies, and Frenemies is all about the balkanization of the creative industries and blah blah blah, and he basically says Ken Auletta. That book's actually not good, weirdly, but he says it's basically like this one guy, like Lawrence Kassan or something, who works for not the trade desk, but the something desk. And he basically just decides. Like, he's got the relationships with all the big brands, and he's just like, oh, you go here, you go here. Here's the things that get to pitch on this account. Because you're right, because every single agency now has these stupid awards because they're just fake.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think that's what kind of sets. So going back to the process thing, telling that story, really diving into the insights and diving into what the business problem actually is, because they could say Tostitos can say they want a sales lift. Okay, that's their problem. They're not selling enough tortilla chips. But then you have to think about why they aren't. And that's up to you. You have to think about what makes them unlike why aren't consumers responding to their product right now? And you have to be honest about why they're not. And once you can kind of strip away some of the artifice, some of that brand artifice that you get, it's like every brand wants you to feel good. Every brand wants you to, every product is meant to make your life easier, et cetera, et cetera. Every brand involves together, gathering and connection. That's every single brand. Okay. So
Yeah,
if
more.
really,
Have you seen that there's the thing that brands who are very lazy now do is they say more.
yeah,
More of what you love.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
going to get more of this, more of this,
huge
more of
trend.
the things you love.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
It's
It's
really,
like
it's,
ugh, it's like this weird like business talk, like
yeah.
consultant talk.
And if they were smart,
Yeah.
they would say less. We should really
Yeah.
have, brands should really have fascistic control over, like, if it were me, if I owned Frito-Lay, I would be such a fascist. I would offer like 3 products and they would be
Right.
the best. And I would say, we're giving you less and you're going to like it more. And here's why.
Yes. And well,
Um,
and if there was justice in the world, or if we lived in a actually competitive place, that would be the case. But
yeah.
instead, we don't live in a place where this stuff actually matters. But you're right. Like that's what, dude, I've said this so many times. You know what one of my favorite ad campaigns ever was exactly doing this exact thing. And it was right at the precipice of when everything went to shit was Gap had a campaign that was dress normal. And it was like
That's
it
good.
pissed off so many people because it was this like fascist. It was like, yo, just don't be yourself. Just
Yeah.
dress fucking normal. Like and you Gap is the perfect brand for that. It's like
Yeah.
go buy the shit at the Gap. It's not that expensive. It's not that interesting, but it's just like be fucking normal. Like stop being weird. And it was so radical and good, but they like had to stop it because it was too good and it like pissed off too many like weirdos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not for nothing. It's a way for brands to differentiate themselves.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what do we know?
I
Uh,
know. I know.
So then going through the process a little more, we're getting honest about what the problem is and the insights and how to solve this problem creatively. We have a couple of really solid PR headlines, some like big poppy, punchy type things, and then we start building things out. How will this look on a billboard? How will this look on social, on digital? Really, it's a lot of digital kind of. It's in my world, it's digital, it's in store, and it's on TV or online video. Um, so yeah, and then you start really getting tactical. So then I personally, regardless of what the medium is, if it's just a print campaign or whatever, I like to write scripts. So I'll write maybe a script for that PR headline, and that kind of gets the juices going. And then before you know it, you have 5 pages of material from this brief. And then you can kind of start, okay, this is cool, that's cool. You start doing some cherry picking. Then you get your creative director in, and then hopefully he starts really kind of directing you down certain paths, and you start exploring different paths. And before you know it, you got this campaign. So, but really technically how it works, you pitch to your creative director, just the creative team, and then he'll give you some feedback, some direction. You build, you write. Simultaneously, right next to you, the art director is creating visual components to your idea or your guys' collective idea. And then you present internally, and then that's to account people, that's to strategy people, et cetera, et cetera. And then the idea just keeps, at that point, it starts getting watered down.
Yeah.
Start to lose your will to live. You don't understand why you do this, and then you go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating. The pain of seeing your idea slowly destroyed by a million
own
people who don't understand it and who are just death of a million cuts. And by the time it comes out the other end, it's just like a total bastardization of whatever you were trying to do beforehand. Yeah, it's fucking rough. That's what I will say. Part of the reason I was attracted to branding is a part of the industry that there's less of that because branding's way, way top of funnel. So
Yeah,
there's way less bullshit to get to the client. Like you have a quicker path from your idea to the client.
Yeah,
And that's why I think a lot of the most creative people are like going into branding because it's like everything then flows down from branding, kind of,
that's absolutely true. And
Yeah.
then to use the Tostitos example, They changed their entire They changed their packaging. They changed that aspect of their branding, and everything is downstream from that. So,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm kind of filling in, or my
Yeah.
agency is filling in.
So, all right, let's finish up by Super Bowl. So okay, well, you never really said how did you get your first agency job? Actually, let's start with that.
Okay,
You didn't say that.
so we're back at doing spec work, right, with the art director friend that you found. Or if you're an art director, this could actually be called how to be a copywriter or an art director, because really you can the skill and the craft is different, but the process to how to get to an agency is pretty similar. Because if you're an art director that wants to get their first job, you need a copywriter to kind of give your ideas some lift, but then
Right.
you bring in your skills anyway. So I got a really nice portfolio together full of spec work that had all different kinds of mediums. I showed out of home, I showed social media stuff, and then I showed like long form blog post. And then I did, you want to be a little bit, if you're a copywriter especially, you want to be a little different, you want to be a little clever. So I have a little section on my portfolio like headlines that were rejected, something as simple as that, just to show that you can write, that you have a little bit of understanding on what's good and what's not, what's rejected and what could be accepted, that kind of thing, even though that's arbitrary, but whatever. So I had my portfolio together. Let's see. And then I just really started shopping it around on LinkedIn. I just started sending my resume to every junior or mid-level copywriter job until I got one. I mean, it was really that simple. Once you have and also you do need a LinkedIn. I hate to say it, but you have to, if you want like a job in a mainstream agency, you have to have a LinkedIn, and that has to look good too. So think about that. But yeah, I just started shopping my book around, finally got a couple bites, and then I just jumped at the first offer I got. Snowballed from there.
And is that the current place you work at, or that was an earlier place?
No, that was two agencies ago.
Okay, and then how do you decide when to shift agencies? Because that's another part of the world that people don't get, is that you are always moving around. You never stay at one place at all, right?
No. And even though the agency I'm at currently, there's a lot of people that stay, and I know why, because it's cushy, it's pretty, you could make your way in this agency to where you're not doing really hard creative work, but you're still doing creative work. But generally speaking, you think you're at an agency, you get the job, and it's 1 year later. Okay, exactly 1 year from your starting date, you need to start looking around. Or actually, no, 1 year from your starting date, you need to be making moves. 3 months before your 1 year, you need to start looking around and seeing what's out there, and you need to start shopping your book around. Hopefully it's been updated by the work that you're doing currently. And then you need to get an offer, and then you need to bring that offer to where you're working currently, and you need to say, look, I have this offer at this other agency, it's for this much, and for a senior position, what can you do? You say it nice, I want to stay, can I? And they'll say no, and they'll tell you that they're not going to promote you or give you a raise, and that's when you go to that other agency. So you're constantly leveraging offers from other agencies to propel you to the next place, or to keep you where you're at and just making a lateral move.
Yeah, and the more you move, the higher you go up. That's what I learned also. Like, I was just so miserable all the time that I moved really quickly all the time. And I just the money just kept going up and up and up and up and up, because it's just every time you move, you make another 20 grand or 30 grand. Right. So yeah, no, that's true. All right. So then you did this forever. You finally got it a good place. How does it work? This is something I have no experience with. Mm-hmm. How does the Super Bowl pitch work?
Good question. Okay. So it's less, it's probably less, I don't know, how do you say, like less glamorous, or less of a deal than you think it would be, although it is a huge deal. But so like I mentioned earlier, agencies will have these jump balls or these cattle calls where either the chief creative officer or someone, this agency is so big, there's like a creative resources person. So that person will reach out and they'll say, hey, we have an opportunity to pitch for Super Bowl. We're briefing this day. We need ideas by this day, and that's how it goes. And so you hit the brief. You're on the kickoff meeting. The main strategy person is going through the brief, and yeah, that's how it kicks off. That's how it goes, and then you're off to the races because it's you and 35 other creatives.
Okay, so it's like everybody at the agency is pitching into this.
Yep, every creative at the agency.
Yeah.
Minus a few, whatever, or minus a few are pitching. It's really like the top. Let me walk that back. It's not every creative at the agency. It's really the top ones. And usually at big ones, there's probably like 15 to 20 top creatives.
Yeah.
So,
and then
you want to be a part of that.
So then when you get this brief, what do you actually, not just like strategically do? What do you literally do? Do you go take a walk? Do you go get hammered? Do you drink whiskey? Do you?
Yeah, I'll drink a little. Yeah, I mean, you.
Do you just sit there? Remember, there's a great moment in Mad Men where Roger walks into Don's office and he goes, "I'm still getting used to the fact that when you're working, you're not actually doing anything because Don's just sitting there."
That's a good point, and actually a good point to make to the audience, because a lot of being creative is sitting around and talking. Shooting the shit with people.
Yeah.
Really, and that's why I would very much recommend people who want to be copywriters not to do it right outside of college and not to do it that young. I got into it when I was 26 and I had already lived like a completely different life. I was a freaking pastry chef, working, I did a whole other thing. So that garnered me, I gained a lot of life experience and what do people really want? So that's the thing about being a creative, is that you really do sit around and do nothing a lot of the times. But once I got that brief, sat around and did nothing, probably went out, had a couple drinks with a friend, talked about it. I looked up, previous work that they had done, this brand had done at the Super Bowl, which they were at the Super Bowl last year. And then you also start getting into heavy research. So that's probably the next day. That's when the research kicks off. You're like, what are people doing at the Super Bowl? Turns out it's all stupid. Turns out it's all crap. Turns out it's all this kind of like empty humor, shallow, funny type stuff. Because for some reason, the Super Bowl, you have to make you have to do this like,
it has to be funny, right?
Thing.
It can't be emotional anymore, right? Yeah, it has.
Yeah, you can't. So you can't really tell a good story. You can't really, And every second is so precious, given the fact that they're spending millions of dollars. So then that, from a brand perspective, that means they're going to try to crowbar in every little RTB, which for people out there, that's reason to buy or reason to believe, which it's like McDonald's saying, it's like a brand saying, we make everything fresh every day or something. These unique or supposedly unique things about a specific brand. So something like the Super Bowl, a brand is going to try to inject as many of those possible. So for me, I really try to chill. I try to clear my mind, because this really does take some thought. It does take some creative thought process to get some ideas generating. And so that's what I do. I'll take it easy for a couple of days, start thinking about stuff, looking around, what's going on in the Super Bowl, who's kind of hot in that Super Bowl space, the Travis Kelce kind of, to be relevant or topical, like whatever. A lot of Taylor Swift talk. Should we use her type of thing? And then go from there. You sit in a room with creatives and you start brainstorming. And then you brainstorm through that process that I had already talked about. Except you do it with a room of people. What's the big PR kind of headline? What's the punch? What's the earned media thing? What's going to be the best Super Bowl commercial in one line? And then start going from there.
Yeah. I always took walks. That was my thing. I mean, again, I was always more isolated. I didn't like working with people. I don't like you. Yeah, if you work with people, you can definitely, shit comes up. But I was always a much better thinker just on my own. Like, I would just take a long walk, like 1 hour, no music, notes program in the phone, don't look at anything, and just that clear mind space. It would always be like, for the first 10 minutes, it was just like static. And then one by one, little ideas would just come up, they would just appear. Yeah. If you just allow yourself to just force yourself to think it. That was my
That's a good point.
Approach.
So that's a good point. Forcing yourself. So once you've cleared your mind, which that's what I do too. I don't necessarily go for walks, but I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
Once your mind is clear, then you can start really digging into the brief and really even honing in on individual words that the strategist
Yeah.
put in that brief. Like
Mm-hmm.
all it takes is one word
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
to jump
Totally.
something off in your mind. So
Right.
I really comb through, and this is actually a way I've started using AI in my work, is that I will put a brief into AI and say, like, give me any kind of like crucial kind of business, specifically business insight, and then from that I'll kind of prevents you from having to click through PowerPoint or whatever. But it's an interesting way, which to be compliant and to be able to get a raise or a promotion in agencies now, you have to start using their AI platforms to be fully compliant. So that's how I've
Mm.
started. Yeah, just like coming into the office, being on time, hitting deadlines, using AI is now a fourth or fifth piece of that. So clear mind, look at the brief again, comb through it, find a word, and just start jotting shit down. Um, sorry, I'm kind of losing my train. I forgot where we
No,
were at.
no, no, no. It's fine.
That's where that's kind of we. I'd say a lot of creatives have very similar processes in that way. You have to clear your head somehow. You have to spark something has to spark, and that usually will come from the brief.
Totally. Then we'll end with what's your pitching process? How do you approach pitching internally and then to clients?
The way I pitch, which I have, I'm so unique, I'm quirky. No, it's not that, but I really do try to go old school with it. Whereas a lot of people these days, to compare myself to people, the pitches I see a lot, it's very much rooted in some kind of human trauma, human cultural issue. So they'll be like, blind people make up 24% of the population, and yet Hershey bars don't have Braille on them. That's kind of how they'll kick it off. For
That's
me, what
so
I like
true,
to do is,
dude. That is so fucking true. Now it's all like, here's a problem in the
yeah,
world, and this
yeah,
is how we're
60%
gonna
of women
solve
have
it.
only one tit. And
Yeah.
so, it's so that's what they'll start with, like a pain point.
99% of women, one time, somebody said that they were fat.
Yeah,
This is how we're gonna change the world.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that
It's
is
so
really
bad,
every
and
single
it's
time.
so like cheaply sensational.
Oh God,
So
so
what I
true,
do
so
is, and
true.
it always has some kind of statistic. 14% of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Filipinos don't fit into the American-sized shoes. Um,
yeah.
and so what I like to do in comparison is to be very real and to be very kind of like personal. And again, going back to the basics, telling a story. Tell a story, which you already have because you already wrote the story after you wrote those PR headlines, after you have looked through the brief. So really, this process sets you up for the pitch, whether it be internally or to client. You really shouldn't change much about it other than fine tuning from internal to client, fine tuning here and there. And so I like to pitch in that way, and I've been really successful at it, really developing a rapport with clients and stuff. It's been good. So I'll start out like, no, this isn't it, but it's not like, I don't know about you guys. It's not that, but it's like, we all experience this and that, and sometimes we'd rather not experience that. So here's how we're going to help people not experience that using this product. It's that
Mm.
with more depth.
Wow. Nice, man. Well, dude, thank you so much. This was really great. Thank you for joining late here on a Friday and telling everybody. This will be an episode that people will treasure because it's an actually useful to them in some way. Speaking of solving business problems.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, and I really hope that anyone watching can, I hope they glean something from our talk. We need cooler people, cooler men
We
in app.
really do. And it's this like hidden industry, you know?
Yeah,
It's very lucrative, it can be very fun, but it's gotten destroyed by the fact that it's all just like marketing graduate women in it. And so now they're like all the cool dudes are just like there's so few and far between. And
yeah,
that's frankly, but I will say, I started this thing almost 4 years ago. The lights are still on. We still are here. And I've
amazing.
employed probably 50 at different, maybe 40 weirdos from the internet doing creative work, and it's so fun because it's just like we say and do whatever the fuck we want, and it's really cool. I mean, compared to your world, we make 1/100th the amount of money, but maybe 1/10. But one day, it's growing. So
I'm
we'll
rooting
see.
for you. And if I can help out Will in any way, you just let me know.
Well, one day we'll hire you once we get a big enough gig. But yeah, dude, thank you so much, and stay in touch. Anything you want to shill before you go?
Nothing.
Nothing to shill.
Nothing to shill. Hey, you can follow me on X if you want.
Wait,
My
what's
name
your
is,
X?
It's Cam_Payne. Get it?
Wait, your campaign?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know this was you. Okay, sick. Well, I just followed you.
My name's Campaign.
Campaign.
Constantly.
Sick.
Cool, man.
Okay, peace, man. Thanks. See you
ya.
later. Bye.